Yeah.
And welcome back to Jubilee Underground, where I am talking to Jonathan Canone, who is, I would say, one of the chiefs, if not the chief, other than Paul McNeil, my brother, of the Jubilee Underground Project, in which, so far, what I can tell, so it's my job, is for me, it is my intention to really find out what's going on with this. And I mean, in joining with you guys, Jonathan, how you doing, by the way?
Pretty good right now.
Good.
Little power nap helped out a lot.
Nice. Well, it's my, I see it, I want to learn as much as possible about this and join you guys. And I feel like a good way to lend whatever I can is to just kind of pick your brain. And uh it, I think I'm a good example of somebody who is intensely interested in what you guys are doing, attracted to what you guys are doing, but not very knowledgeable about what you guys are doing, what you're doing.
Well,
So
I'm excited about your involvement and your ability to just actually listen and then grasp what's going on, which is more than I can say for a lot of people. Um, but you have a gift
oh,
of
I appreciate
listening.
that. Well, as a counselor by training,
Yeah,
I it may have maybe that's helped.
yeah.
the uh the first interviewers, I guess. No, I wouldn't say the first interviewers by profession. No, I
Yeah.
can't. Well, so the thing, so last week we talked a lot about, and every week I hope that we add a new feature. Last week was just raw. We were just jumping into it. This week we have a background and a logo, and maybe next week we'll have like a social media presence and maybe a website. We'll see. But uh, I'm excited. I think this is great. And what I wanted to talk about today is one of the biggest pop culture. Um, I don't know what people are excited about in pop culture right now. On, I think it's HBO Max, is this show called The Last of Us, based on a video game. And it is probably one of the most well-produced video game. I want to say movie, but it's not. It's a show. And of course, nowadays on streaming, basically what you're getting is a 23-hour movie, because each episode is cinematic and
Gotcha.
well written, and probably as much money goes into one of these shows as a blockbuster movie.
Hmm.
Have you heard of The Last of Us?
I've heard of it. I don't have TV or any streaming service. I just pick up random cultural references here and there, but um, I may have seen like a clip or two about it and been like, got the general idea. There's a zombie fungus.
Yes, that's what. So it's a zombie fungus. I'm not a huge fan of zombie type shows. I don't really, zombies kind of gross me out, but this, but I have seen a lot of stuff. I've tuned into most. I tend to like the infection type zombies more. Like
Oh,
my
yeah.
favorite was 28 Days Later.
Oh yeah, that was decent.
Yeah, but this
And
is
then it's
probably
like,
one of the.
how far can you take that? You know.
What's that?
Then sometimes I'm just like, how far can you take this? Like,
Yeah.
how many shows can you do about zombies? But
Well, I think one of the biggest gripes I've had about zombies is the idea is the essential idea that bodies would continue after death. And to that point, The Last of Us, to me is one of the best explanations of that, because it uses something real in nature. And maybe you probably know more about this than I do. It's a certain kind of fungus that takes over bees' brains and makes them into slaves, makes them do things.
Oh yeah, I had heard of that. That was creepy. That's
Yeah,
for
well,
real.
it's based off of that. So it's
Okay.
based off of that function, and it's some kind of mutation, evolution of that kind of fungus with the mycelius power, with the power of mycelium. Is mycelium that's the singular version of it, or is it
I don't
multiple?
know. I flunked Latin.
And so I just so it's a Latin word then.
Or yeah, that ending anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me, because this is my take. This is the thing, is that what if this is sort of a preemptive strike by the enemy of Jubilee Underground? It may, on the outset, seem like something that would draw people into the idea of mycelium. However, it's scary. It's the opposite in a lot of ways of the kingdom of God. It's making people into ravenous, hyper beast-like selfishness, right? Survival, deadly monsters, rather than people of relationship and holy community. It's in many ways the direct opposite of what you're talking about. The direct opposite in what so far I'm learning, as far as I can tell, it seems like it's the direct opposite of the Jubilee project, Jubilee Underground Project.
Yeah, like the personality and the purpose of the um host takeover. The organism that's taking over these hosts and turning them into beasts. But as far as the spread, the concept of a spread, like an unseen underground spread that can
Mhm.
like incorporate you into it, it's there's some similarities there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I stopped watching it because I don't know, I get a little grossed out. And they had an episode where one of my favorite actors, do you know uh, Ron from Parks and Rec?
Oh yeah,
What's his name?
he's the
Nick
man.
Offerman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played a homosexual guy, and it wasn't so much that the homosexuality, it was just that it was sort of, that was all that it was about.
Okay.
Two guys. There wasn't, the main characters weren't even really in it, and I don't know, it just seemed really gratuitous. But so I stopped watching it. However, by the third or second episode, what I've seen, yeah, there definitely was that aspect of stepping on it. Now, it was much more uh, above the ground, as far as a lot of the roots were above the ground, though it went underground, of course, for many, many miles. But it was that hive mind sort of mentality. Um, and I think they did a really good job of representing it as without a hive mind, without any kind of real entity or consciousness. It wasn't like the Borg. It was just this hard to explain, but fungal.
Parasite
Yeah,
sort of.
yeah, parasite. Yeah. And so it brought up questions for me, and I think this is where I sort of want to talk about is, many people think of mushrooms and fungus as a bad thing.
Yeah,
And
mysterious and somewhat and potentially dangerous. Yeah.
Yes. And so in what ways do you incorporate that idea into the Jubilee Underground?
Um, well, I guess it's consider your audience too, because a lot of a lot of homesteaders are pretty familiar with and appreciative of mushrooms, and know the benefits of it. Whereas, you might say the general, like the common man on the street, it just sees maybe portobellas or maybe oysters, but mostly those little white criminy or whatever they are.
Yeah.
And is like, yeah, I'm not sticking anything in my mouth that doesn't have a barcode on the plastic wrapper. Sorry. Because I have to trust my supply lines, and I'll just get to the point where, if I'm walking through the woods and grabbing stuff and like, oh, this is good stuff, and pop it in my mouth, people are a little bit like, are you sure it's not poisonous? And it's like reasonably sure, beyond a reasonable doubt. I've done it a lot of times. So,
Yeah.
but a lot of people who are close to the earth understand the benefits, I'd say. Um,
I understand that. I guess what I'm saying is to talk less about the mushroom aspect of it and fungal aspect of it, just with the fungal aspect in mind, the metaphor in mind. It does seem like there are some similarities with homesteader community types in
mm-hmm,
which I'll just speak from my experience and from my perceptions and my I would say, and from a relational standpoint, what do you say to someone who's like me, who would say, well, my experience of homesteaders is that they're very hard to get along with. They tend to be very to themselves and have very off-putting, sometimes off-putting, sometimes attractive, but um, unique way about them. They're eccentric.
eccentric is the word, yeah, for sure. Um, and yeah, a lot of them are, escapists, or
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have the us versus the world mentality. And part of what I'm doing is I'm working on a piece right now, actually, not right now. Like this week, I'm working on a piece called Who is We? And a lot of people have become disenchanted with the larger we, they it's not just about, well, I prefer organic, locally sourced food. It's kind of like I don't feel like being part of the herd.
Mm.
um I don't think I can trust the masses, or the
Mm.
things that are made for the masses. Mass produced products, mass produced information is just not for me. So I'm going to, you know tune out and drop out, tune in, turn off, whatever. I'm gonna, um, get away from it all, and then it's like all the narratives that make sense to them are like, this little remnant, this tiny remnant of the only ones who see reality or know what's good, and everybody else is insane and brainwashed and dangerous. It's very, lends itself to paranoia. And I'm just like, human beings are made for community. We're supposed to have a family. We're supposed to have a tribe, and we need to just, probably expand our definition of we, and be more comfortable with being part of something larger than ourselves. Even if you make your own choices and say like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what's best for me and my family. You can go do what's best for you and your family, but I'm like, we're not all going to go to the same store, or we're not all going to go to the same school. That's fine, but definitely don't cut yourself off from the land of the living to save yourself. That's foolish, it's dangerous. But it does, it does tend to head that direction.
Why do you? Well, I mean, other than what you've just explained, because I hear you saying that there is a tendency within people that are running away from what we talked about before, sort of the what I've talked about, the Christmas cathedral, California Christmas cathedral, the Hollywood, Walmart. I don't know if Walmart, but the consumerism of the masses, like you were saying. So the people that are running away from that are not really running toward commonalities, like cultural commonalities. Like we start off by talking about a cultural concept, cultural I guess you could say a piece of art, something that people, it's a show on Netflix, or no, on HBO, and it's probably not something that a lot of homesteaders are watching, but I guess I feel like it sort of villainizes anybody that would associate with it.
If that's somebody's first exposure, yeah, like it would be a hard trope to co-opt. It'd be a parable you wanted to leave alone. But
especially if that's somebody's only exposure to the idea of the world of the fungal world.
Yeah.
But I guess deeper than that, not deeper, but just to expand on that, it seems to me like the Jubilee Underground Project is, a lot of it has to do with living with other people. But I don't know. I guess that was my impression. But as I think about it, it might just be connecting with other people. And I wanted to get your stance on, or sort of what your thinking is, what your hope is toward that question. Is it about connecting? Is it about living together? Is it big groups of people living? Is it like the Jesus Project, or?
Well, it's a spectrum. Like my network is people who are in like solidly locked into an intentional community. And I admire that. I was enamored of it when I was younger and lived in community houses, community farms, and communal living arrangements most of my 20s, and I kind of got I'm kind of over it, but I still like the people who love it and are functioning well in it, and are happy and healthy, and that's what they want to do with their lives. I usually get along with them real well, and I just had some people helping me inoculate mushroom logs Friday who are in an intentional community and are influenced a lot by the Jesus Project. The one brother spent like 10 years at the Jesus Project, and so yeah, we're a new, my wife and 4 children and I are a nuclear family paying a mortgage on a piece of property, and we have a church family, and we have a local homeschool co-op, and we don't always see eye to eye on everything. Sometimes there's conflict, and sometimes we just agree to disagree, but we have a level of agreement where we're going to share together, we're going to help each other, we're going to be there for each other, and we're
When you
gonna
say we, who do you mean? Your family, your nucleus family, or
no,
you and your church?
yeah, church family or homeschool family, like,
Gotcha.
um, but we chose it.
Hmm.
So in a way that is intentional community, we all just live on our own property. Um,
Hmm.
you know, there's a feeling when you're part of a city and consuming mass produced information and mass produced food and being educated, you know, with everybody else, that you're part of a herd and who is farming you, you know, what are
Yeah.
their what are their intentions?
Hmm.
And some people are just fine, like, what are you talking about intentions, man? This is just life. Like,
Hmm.
take your place in the hole and shut up. But
Hmm.
I think that there's a middle ground somewhere between Jeremiah Johnson and just massive unthinking herds of, mindless robots. And it is making agreements, voluntary commitments. And a lot of times that it's uncomfortable. It's about the loss of self,
Hmm.
the loss of, like, ego. You've got to, if you don't, I mean, kids are enough to of a exercise in ego death,
Yeah.
put yourself put yourself aside and put somebody else's needs before your own. Like, I know I don't want to get up. Um, I don't want to feed you first, but you discipline yourself to take care of somebody else's needs before your own.
Hmm.
And that's the way of the cross. That's the way of living the gospel. um and so I feel like a healthy community will drive you to that, like, but it won't. It seems like a fine line, but it's very different when you've agreed to commit your lives to each other and serve each other and put each other's needs first, or just to share, or just to have each other's back, just to look after
Hmm.
each other's children. Like, when you're sick, we'll come over with pumpkin soup. Like, when you've had a baby, we'll help you.
Hmm.
We'll throw you a baby shower. That kind of, like, if your car blows up, I have 3 cars. You can have one of mine for a couple months until you find one. That
Yeah.
kind of. I've had amazing amounts of generosity offered to me. Um, Blows my mind, really.
Hmm.
Um, when our twins were born, people would come and be in our house. Like, sisters came and stayed with my wife, like, every day while I was at work for 3 months, and I've never seen anything like it. It's like they've all got other things to do.
Hmm.
They've got stuff to do at home. They're busy, but they set aside time every week to come help somebody who was in over her head with 3 children ages 2 and under, and just like, helped her rock babies to sleep and warm up bottles and do the dishes, and it was amazing. And
Wow.
it's just like, um being part of something larger than yourself, even when then sometimes it's uncomfortable, like, don't get along with that person. We don't see things eye to eye all the time. They're super annoying. Well, you have to practice laying aside all that and loving each other anyway.
Right.
And that, so if somebody's completely solipsistic and, like, burying stuff in their backyard for the when the shit hits the fan, and doesn't trust anybody, they're missing out on what human beings were meant to be. Not to mention the inevitable future,
Yeah.
um, of togetherness.
Well, that reminds me. I don't know if you ever heard of Jeffrey Holsclaw and his wife Sid Holsclaw. They've done a lot of work. They used to be my pastor,
Okay.
and his wife. She was also one of the pastors at Life on the Vine, and so that was a missional church. And one of the things he said is that we're trying to intentionally work against having, what did he call it? The suburban citadel mentality. So the citadel, that we are a enclosed, like you're talking about that solipsistic family, huh?
Yeah, to a certain extent, that's how I was raised. Like, there's walls. Very much about walls, like keeping us protected from them.
But it's more than just. It's almost out of a collective understanding of, especially in the Chicago suburbs, of this is how we do it. La 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 la. This is the way we are to live in the suburbs of Chicago. Is we all have our own little place, and we stick to ourselves, and we say hi, and we talk. But it was a suburban citadel mentality. And what I hear you saying is that what I like especially is the idea of it being a spectrum.
Yeah.
And that the ultimate goal is will come to fruition, will manifest on Christ's return, upon Christ's return. But every little step, whatever we choose to do, we freely take a step towards that ultimate manifestation. The already not yet. Each step that we take, whatever it may be, is a breaking forth of the kingdom.
Yeah. So, like, what's your definition of we? When you say we, what do you mean? Like,
oh, that's a good question.
So some people are like, yeah, me and the people who live under the same roof as me, or me and the people that I see once a week on Sunday mornings, or me and it's very easy to have this nice mystical feeling every once in a while, like, oh, we're all one. But how can you practically pull that off?
Well, and it's particularly hard in a global internet connected world.
Right.
I don't know that I can really define, but when I say we, I picture a combination of two things: the people I come in contact with in the daily, in the weekly institutions of my life, being school, church, and work, and my neighbors. Now, neighbors includes social media, though, doesn't it? Kind of
does, yeah.
You almost, I guess, I almost have to have a third. It's like neighbors and
neighbors I haven't met face to face.
The virtual neighbors, because they are watching me to a certain extent. I mean, when I post stuff, do stuff live, in particular, they're hearing me talk about my beliefs and things like that. But posting stuff about my family
and like, so you could have charity fundraisers where, like, I'm part of a group I'm super excited about. One of my digital communities is started out as Liberty Memes $5 charity club. I don't know if you know David Gay.
Is that the thing that you? I think you added me to it because is it the vans for wheelchairs thing?
Wheelchair vans is what it evolved into.
Okay. I think I figured out that it was you that entered me into that, because you were the only person I knew in that group.
Yeah, I was just mass adding everybody. I'm like, if you don't like it, just drop out. But the original idea, and we've kind of got away from it, but the original idea was you commit to donating $5 a month towards a fundraiser.
Okay.
And it blew my mind. The average donation ended up being more like $20, but if you can't afford $20, $5 will do. If you can't afford $5, at least like, comment, share, spread the word, and somebody else will get involved. But I mean, I've seen, $50,000 causes raised in a couple of days, and um, I think it's at 500,000 at this point overall, just for wheelchair vans. I think it's several million since the beginning, back in like 2018 or 19. I think 19 is when it started. But basically micro donations. There isn't really too many heavy hitters, and the idea being that every little bit adds up. And I think that that's a cool project for people who aren't in each other's lives except for digitally. But there's a whole, I can attest to the fact that there's a whole nother level of meaning when somebody like sets aside their day to come to
Mm.
you personally and help you when you're in need. Um, just drop everything
Yeah.
and pull together and help you in person. It's just um, most people don't, unfortunately, don't have that experience at any
Mm.
time in their life. It's like, you know, if you don't keep hustling and grinding, life's going to take you out,
Yep.
or you get way behind and you have way too many reversals of fortune. Just get another credit card and keep on going. Like nobody's got your back. And I think it's a really important thing to teach people how to um, have some kind of mutual aid by voluntary association. So, two of the biggest wheeze that I hear is like, can you believe it's been 20 years since we invaded Iraq? Like, I didn't invade Iraq. Did you
Yeah.
invade Iraq? I don't think so. Like, that's not, they invaded Iraq. I didn't.
Yeah.
Or like we sent financial aid or whatever to foreign aid. We sent $1 billion in foreign aid. I'm like, I didn't send $1 billion in foreign aid. Like, I don't know those people. I don't do what they do their own thing. I do my own thing. We don't talk. And so there's this idea of like the collective pitching in on taxes, and we're gonna feed all the hungry people, and we're gonna give the homeless people a place to live, and we're gonna buy formula for all the people who can't afford formula. And it's like, that sounds nice, but um, that's not what I mean when I say we. But I do think that people need the feeling of pulling their weight together and helping out people when they're in need, and then receiving it too. Like, it's a humbling experience sometimes to just have like 3 months salary worth of gifts given to you in like all at once, like from dozens of different people just dump this blessing on you. Like, it's humbling,
Wow.
but it's an important experience.
Well, so in that, what I hear is leveraging leveraging is a bad word, but tapping in to the new opportunity, because internet doesn't just bring oppressive feelings of wanting to be like the Joneses, right? It also brings opportunity for millions of people to contribute $1 towards
Yeah.
something. Crowdsourcing
Yeah.
has become a major source of aid for people. I've seen multiple times recently of in disasters, people making what are those things, GoFundMe, like a GoFundMe thing, and just it is encouraging to see so much support flow through that to help somebody. Of course, that's monetary, and I like what you're saying. There is a difference between monetary support, all of us banding together and pitching in a certain amount
Which is cool.
from our pocketbooks. Yeah, that is cool. However, that's also the idea behind taxes, right? Like,
Yeah.
although it gets rid of the middleman, which is really nice. The democratization
Yeah.
of
If you
of
could have a platform that wasn't also like a complete douchebag and murdering millions of people all around the world. That'd be great.
Yeah. But the idea of having the same spirit of coming together and alleviating overwhelming problems, and maybe not even overwhelming problems, but alleviating each other's burdens through just a little help here, a little help there. Having somebody come over and just help me with some yard work, like that has been phenomenal. But one of the things I struggle with isn't helping other people, it's receiving help.
Yeah.
My anxiety goes off. There's a lot of pressure for me in particular, receiving help. I guess it's the sort of thing where I feel like I need to reciprocate it, or maybe because I'm a helper by nature, I feel like I should be helping you. You shouldn't be helping me, or there's something.
Well, there's also this part of the narrative of the American identity is independence.
Yeah.
Like I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. But well, if you think about insurance, you don't know anybody else, that has your carrier, and you don't know anybody that works at that company. You just send them $50 a month, or in health insurance, you send them $1,000 a month or whatever. Yeah. And then you say, hey, I've got a really big bill here I don't feel like paying, and they're like, no problem. That's why you have insurance. So it's a voluntary agreement to have your back by a nameless, faceless, personality-less corporation. We're fine with that. Like, that's what you're here to do.
I wouldn't say we're fine with that. Huh? I am not fine with that. I actually do not have health insurance. But have you heard of MediShare and Samaritan Health Insurance?
Christian Healthcare Ministry.
Yeah. Where it is more of a co-op. And that's what we're talking about, right? I'll
give you my affiliate referral number if you want to sign up, because if you sign up, I get a month free. So,
nice. What is it called?
Christian Healthcare Ministry.
Oh, it's just called Christian Healthcare Ministry. Okay.
CHM. Yeah. Another thing I'd really like to plug that's really inspiring me right now. We were talking about before we went live, the idea of people who are getting off of drugs and want to get free of addiction, and what resources are there to help them. And I can't think of anything else where there's such a disparity between supply and demand. The demand is mind-numbingly huge. There are just tens of millions of people who need help, whose options are get clean, which is not likely, jails, institutions, or death. Like it's life and death. And of course nobody wants to help, because they're like, speaking as somebody who used to be there, like, you're complete pain in the ass, you're completely non-functional, you're not ready to cooperate at all, and you can say you're going to quit and you can't quit. You just can't. And people are like, what's wrong with you? You just quit, don't you? And one time somebody asked me about quitting smoking, like, who'd never had tobacco, and it's like, what's it like? I was like, I mean, it's like, imagine if you were thirsty and you couldn't drink, and you were tired and you couldn't sleep for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And he's like, that doesn't sound fun. I'm like, no, it drives you absolutely insane. You have to have a place where people can go and be insane until they get it out of their system. and nobody wants to do that, but there are places like that. So the most exciting project I know of right now is called the Reckless Saints of Nowhere. They're out of
Ooh.
they're out of Oklahoma. Um, it's just this guy who got clean and got other people came to him like, I want to get clean too, man. How did you do it? What? And he just would drop everything, go pick them up, take them where they needed to go, pay their bus ticket, find them a place to stay, and like out of pocket helping
What
people.
is it called?
The Reckless Saints of Nowhere.
All right.
Um,
Like that is. It looks like the banner here, Reckless Saints of Nowhere.
yep. So it's basically 3 people, 4 people maybe at this point, like husband and wife and 1 or 2 other volunteers. Almost no overhead, real low overhead. Somehow like they're printing T-shirts. They have a T-shirt printing business, hoodies and hats, and they're like netting like $350,000 or more a year, and 100% of the proceeds from the sale of T-shirts and hoodies and whatever donations come in go straight to helping people get the resources they need to get clean. And they have like probably the highest success rate of non-recidivism anywhere I've ever heard of. It's
Beautiful.
almost unbelievable success, and it's because they're starting to like. Last time I heard, they're starting to basically get into the housing end of things and just saying like, here's a community of people who want to live clean and sober. And in Oklahoma, good luck, Chuck. Like it's everywhere. Like meth
Yeah.
and opioids is everywhere. Um,
Mm.
so if you want a community of people who have your best interests in mind and want the same thing as you do, like stick around, be part of what's going on here, and that connection is really what helps more than anything. I'm a big believer in 12-step programs,
Me
but
too.
you just you show up at that time and you sit there for an hour, and you might, if you're really good, you might be able to find 3 or 4 meetings a day for you can go to as many as you want, but you still have to live. So yeah, when I heard about Reckless Saints of Nowhere, something grabbed me by the guts. I'm like, these people have got it. That is so inspiring. Like, what am I even doing with my life? Like, like
Interesting.
I want to be that awesome. But I never would have heard of him if I didn't have the internet. You
Yeah.
know, 50 years ago, I'd have never heard of the Reckless Saints of Nowhere.
Maybe even 20 years ago. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Well, I think so that brings me sort of the wrapping up. So the actually we'll put the link in the notes here, and it's the Reckless, it's just their name, Reckless Saints of Nowhere.com. They're in Pryor, Oklahoma. But to wrap us up here, I just wanted to ask you, what is something that we can always end with in these weekly talks? What is something that we can call each other to and the audience to? Something pithy. What would, if you could reduce what we've talked about today and last time down to a prayer for one another, what would it be? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, it might take me a minute.
But I feel like from today, and I just want to talk through it really. I don't necessarily want to hammer something out right now, but I just want to broach the idea that we have something at the end that we say a prayer, what I call prayer, but really it's a call, right? So maybe something like small important steps towards connection or something like that, or to the kingdom, to the restoration, or, those are both sort of derivative of other things. Well, to the king, to the restoration, the kingdom is something else. But what would be I guess I just want us to start thinking about something that we could an outro call each time we end our discussions. Do you have any ideas of what general theme you'd like to, or is that even something that makes sense at all?
I'd have to think about it for a while. The first couple things that popped into my head was like when Jesus is praying in Gethsemane, he prays that God would make his followers or disciples, make them one as you and I are one. And so it's participating in the whole, or also a return to the source.
Ooh, I
Like
like that.
return to the source.
Return to the source.
Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. Return to the source.
One of my favorite verses. I pretty much take every opportunity I possibly can to bring up 2 Corinthians 5, where he says, like, he's made us ministers of reconciliation. So we like implore you on behalf of God, be reconciled to God. To like today, in Sunday school, it's like a Bible study. We were finishing up Job, and the last thing is God says to Job's three friends, like, have Job pray for you. I will hear his prayer.
Yeah.
And like right now you're on the outs with me, but Job isn't. So if he prays for you, then you will be restored or reconciled. And so it's like, can you imagine, this is like 4,000 year old story. This is before Moses, before maybe before Abraham, way before Jesus. And it seems like Job may have had some inkling that Jesus existed and would exist, but which is exciting. But it's like he could still function as the agent of reconciliation for the people who had committed a breach against the creator. And so he was the link to reconnect them. And it's like, well, here we know who, the nature of God through Jesus Christ, that he is willing that everyone should come to him and repent, and like is desirous that everybody come back to him, and has given us like a charge. This is your job. This is what you should be all about, is the reconciliation. You're an agent of reconciliation. And like, but even 4,000 years ago, before, like way before Jesus ever showed up, Job knew how to do it. So it's like, that's a big part of my heart's mission, is being an agent of returning everything to the creator from which we emanated, the essence that we emanated from.
Return to the source. I like that. Well, that's a good one to start with. So,
Right.
or end with, I guess. So, start with it in terms of. I think we can add other things, other calls. However, that's a good one. But so, let us end with a call to return to the source.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody else who's joined in, and look for another one next week.
Sweet.